And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Franklin, one of the two co-founders of NorCal SCI. Welcome to tonight's edition of Cooking and Nutrition with Arash and Shelley. Of course, with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, that is going to be the most important topic that we're going to be addressing tonight. And I'm happy to tell you that the two of them have come up with some nice Thanksgiving cooking ideas that'll make it delicious, healthy, and fun for you. As always, we are recording these presentations, and so in the event that you need to jump off the call, no need to worry about missing out on anything. Everyone who registered for tonight's presentation will receive a recording of this tomorrow morning in your inboxes, so rest assured. Also, all of our presentations are made possible thanks to the generosity of our donors, so we're grateful to them that continue to support these important programs. And finally, everyone has been muted, and that's why you're not hearing any kind of background noises. And if you have any questions that you wish to pose to both Arash and Shelley, please make sure that you do so throughout the presentation. They'll be happily able to take your calls or take your questions all throughout the presentation. So without further ado, let me introduce the two of them. And by the way, in the interest of full transparency, Arash is a member of our board of directors and Shelley is a member of our advisory board. So we're grateful to both of them for their service to our organization and to the greater SCI community. Shelley is a lifelong advocate of nutrition. When she's not working with her patients, she can be found in her greenhouse or kitchen. She obtained her BS degree in nutritional science from San Jose State University in 2012 and her master's degree in public health in 2016 from the University of New England. And she has been working at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, one of the top spinal cord injury rehab hospitals in the country since 2013. She currently works in the outpatient clinic of the hospital, seeing primarily those with SCI, and also spends time working with complex gastroenterology issues in the outpatient GI clinic. And as I mentioned, she's a member of our advisory board. Arash experienced a C5, C6 incomplete spinal cord injury in 2012 as a result of a fall. He has given numerous talks and shared his story of perseverance, recovery, and challenging limits to audiences large and small, including a TEDx talk. He's a Bay Area native and credits his California upbringing for his love of the outdoors, nature, cooking, and cooking activities that he still cherishes as he continues to travel, explore, and enjoy new experiences. He's married with a daughter and a son, and as I mentioned, he's also on our board of directors. So welcome, Arash and Shelley. Take it away, please.
Thank you, Franklin. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Arash.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you excited about this theme?
I am. I'm very excited about this theme. I have my reasoning, which I'd like to tell everyone as we go along.
Please.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah, whatever. But if you have any other introductory thoughts,
I hail from a family of super carnivores. So I am looking forward to learning what you are sharing with everybody here, so that way I can take a lot of these ideas and use them and feed my super carnivores with some healthier food too.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because Thanksgiving is obviously a fun time for most of us and a unique holiday. I come from a culture of, food is the center of everything. So it's funny to me that there's like only one day that's centered around food, but I do love it for that reason. And I'm excited for this because like you, it's even before I cut down on, my meat eating and everything, I never was crazy about turkey. I'll be honest. I enjoyed it on the night of, but it wasn't like something I got super, super excited about. I was always more excited about the side dishes. And I found myself kind of thinking, some of these side dishes are great ingredients or ideas, but I just don't love the execution. So I was on the spinal cord injury food group on the Boston chapter this morning, talking with those folks. And I think a few of them hopefully are on this tonight. If you are, thank you. And we were talking about kind of favorites and non-favorites, and green bean casserole came up as something, that people, a few others like me, we're not huge fans of. Big surprise. And my biggest thing with Thanksgiving food is well, a few things, but texture is one of them. I feel like there's so much mushy stuff on the plate, and it's just like you got like mashed potatoes and yams and casserole, and then, you know, turkey and gravy, and it's just like I want some like brightness, some acid, some
Crunch.
crunchiness, some crunch. Exactly. So and now that I'm looking at my dishes tonight, I'm like, there actually isn't a lot of crunch, but whatever, we're just gonna go
I
with
see
it.
crunch.
You see some crunch?
Yeah, I've always been in charge of bringing the salad. So I always bring a big, beautiful salad, but I don't eat meat. So I tend to just eat a big old salad for Thanksgiving. So there's so many other options as you're gonna share other things we can do for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we can start to get into it. I mean, I know whatever we make tonight will probably disappoint some people because we didn't make something or made another, and that's okay. Really, there are so many options, and again, that's kind of what I love about like when you start emphasizing the side dishes and the vegetables as much as the main deal of the turkey. There's just no end. You can do stuff with pumpkins. You can do you know, fall squash and fun salads. I really think it's a good time to do like a decadent salad. Thanksgiving is, you know, with ingredients I don't do for my everyday salad. I don't like do like all the like the fancy little preparations of like, you know, this or that. And so it's a good time to do that. So
and get out of the mindset of having a main course, like make all these things the main course.
It's way more fun to look at a table and see like 12 colorful different things and want to have some of them instead of like, you know, one thing and then like 3 sides on the side, you know.
Right.
Anyway, that's just me. So we know that then whatever we make, you know, we'll maybe disappoint a few folks, but that's okay. We're just going to go with it anyway. And I'll kind of describe a little bit of the reasoning of the 3 things we picked today. One is it's going to be a play on mashed potatoes. I do like mashed potatoes. There is, even though I'm an immigrant kid who came here and, you know, Thanksgiving was a new thing for me, there are really things that I really love. And one of them is mashed potatoes. And, but I think mashed potatoes can be boring, to be honest. I mean, just, you know, cream and butter and cheese and potatoes, like, sure, like that's fine, but it doesn't really do it for me. So we're going to do a little bit of a play on that. We're also going to make a wild rice stuffing. I kind of went back and forth between doing a bread stuffing or wild rice, but you know, I decided on the wild rice because it could kind of tie in the theme you and I talked about, Shelley, of whole grains, and really, really good for you. So again, if you're like me and you want an excuse to eat a lot of stuff, I'm a high quantity of healthy stuff. Then if you eat healthier things, you can eat more of them. Make a wild rice stuffing, and then last but not least, we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction. And I wanted to include this dish, and I'm happy you were up for it, which is we're going to do a stuffed pasta, because I just want to show you how easy it is to make something really beautiful and unusual, and it'll kind of impress people. But a lot of times people don't go in an Italian direction for Thanksgiving. And I think there's a lot of great things you can do if you do Italian, especially if you're keeping it healthy, like we're trying to do. And everything I'm doing tonight is like super easy. So anyway, that's kind of where a little intro. Anything to add before we jump in, Shelley?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. I'm excited about this. Yeah, so teach us your ways.
Oh God, same to you. Okay, I'm gonna have my lovely camera person do her thing. Are we here?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. I'm gonna start one thing going, and then I had to do a lot of prep ahead of time. So you know, obviously to save time and everything, but I'm going to get one thing started, and then as that's cooking for the stuffing, I'm going to kind of finish one other thing so we can go from there. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. Bear with me. I appreciate some of the folks. I've heard feedback. I always get asked like for recipes. I'm happy to say that as of today, I will create recipes for everything I'm making. I can't guarantee the like beautiful pictures and all that because this is the picture. But I'll definitely write some specific directions. So all of you folks who've been asking me for recipes, your feedback has been heard, and we will definitely do that. So rest assured, no notes are needed. Cool. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get the wild rice stuffing started. With the stuffing, whether you're doing it with bread or rice or whatever, you have that kind of, starchy ingredient, and then you want to get some other things in there to give it good flavor. So for my stuffing, I'm keeping it pretty simple. Again, what I like about Thanksgiving is kind of taking the traditional ingredients and just making them a little more interesting. So onion, half an onion, carrots, celery, and some mushrooms. These are going to be the base of my stuffing. I've got my pan heating up here, so I'm just waiting for that. But we're just going to get that going, and then you'll see this is kind of like not that exciting right here, but as we go along to kind of finish the stuffing, as we're mixing everything in together, it'll get way more interesting, and we're going to put some really fun ingredients in there to make it really delicious. So I'm waiting for my pan to heat up. Let me just show you my wild rice. I made this ahead of time. This is just, again, everything I made today, I got nothing crazy ingredients. This is just wild rice from the store in a bag. I cooked it for the directions, but if you guys are interested about wild rice or any kind of whole grains, go back and watch the session. I think, Shelley, we did that one together on whole grains. And my trick for any whole grain, if you're not sure like how much water and is it going to be too watery or too dry, put a bunch of water, cook the grain, and just keep an eye on it. And then whenever it's cooked, strain it really well in a strainer. And then you don't need to worry about like how much water you're adding or anything. I can't keep track of like quinoa versus wild rice versus brown rice, like what takes how much water. So this is my trick for that. So all I did was I cooked my rice ahead of time. I drained it, and now it's ready to go. This is about 1.25 cups of wild rice dry that obviously made a lot more. So anything to add while I get these started, Shelley?
So I'll segue. I take little notes. So background of what I do for these presentations is Arash and I discuss what we're going to do, what he's going to cook, and then I kind of break down everything that he's doing food by food, and I talk about the nutrient content. So while you're doing that, I want to chat about wild rice, which is actually not rice. It is a seed from a semi-aquatic grass with an edible grain, native to North America. It grows across waterways throughout the US. In comparing white rice and brown rice with wild rice, it has longer grains, a firmer texture, a nuttier, earthier flavor. It was originally grown and harvested by Native Americans who used the grain as a major staple in their diet. Wild rice has slightly fewer calories in the same serving size as brown or white rice. It has iron, potassium, selenium. Protein content in wild rice is higher than regular rice and many other grains. So for 3.5 ounces, it will give you 4 grams of protein, which is not bad. It is also interestingly considered a complete protein. So if you're wondering about protein, I did talk about protein and amino acids in one of my past presentations, but this is kind of like quinoa, where it has all 9 essential amino acids, and they call that a complete protein. Fiber content is roughly about the same as brown rice. There's a lot of research around whole grains, including wild rice, and all of this research ties in decreased risk of heart disease, which I will say again and again, those with spinal cord injuries have over a 200% more chance of heart disease or cardiovascular disease than those in the able-bodied population. So I have more on wild rice, but I want to make sure Arash doesn't want to say something about what he's doing right now.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah. The only thing I'm gonna say now is I got those veggies in there. I threw everything in at the same time. I've said this many times before. I like to let the carrots, celery, onions cook for a few minutes before adding garlic. So in a couple minutes, once these cook a little bit, I'll add my chopped garlic. I have about 3 cloves worth. And then I'm also gonna add some apple into this. But because I don't want my apple to be like really mushy, especially because this is gonna cook in the pan, get mixed in with the rice, and then bake in the oven. I'm not gonna add my apple until quite a bit later. So, but I am cutting it up. So I guess just really quick, I just wanted to show, if you're wondering like how to do it, I just kind of take my apple and cut it around kind of in 4 pieces. So I already did 2 cuts, and then I kind of cut around, and then you're left with this core. I don't throw this away. I just usually snack on it. But then in terms of like what size piece you want or how are you doing, if you're doing a salad, you can cut it into thin slices. I just kind of want cubes. So I'm probably going to cut these into kind of like this size, and then lay it on its side. And then I'll just cut it into cubes about that big, because I kind of want bigger chunks. So that's what I'm going to do for the next couple moments. Let that cook a little, add my garlic, and pass it back to you.
And Arash, what kind of apples are those again?
Oh, I'm using, this is a Fuji. You can use any apple you want. I tend to like apples that have a little bit of tartness. So Granny Smith works well, Fuji, Pink Lady, Honeycrisp, really any apple you want. But yeah.
I highly recommend grabbing the apples that are rolling around in the back of your fruit drawer. Apples last a really long time, so just put apples in everything. I mean, what you're doing here with this wild rice is great, but you can put apples in salads. Wild rice, I want to say one other thing about wild rice. So current research and whole grains, reduced risk of heart disease. But also I just want to mention that eating a diet rich in whole grains also helps decrease risk of type 2 diabetes as well, because of all the vitamins, minerals, and the fiber in whole grains like wild rice. Apples, also tons of nutrition in them, nutrient dense, full of water, full of fiber and other nutrients, low in calories. They take time to eat also, so that helps fill you up. Fiber in apples is really beneficial for keeping blood sugar nice and even. When you eat things that have high fiber, they slow down the spike of blood sugar different than if you were to say drink apple juice. So eating this apple, like he's chopping this up and putting it in a wild rice dish, that has a ton of fiber in it. It's going to take some time for your blood sugar to spike there versus if you were to just drink a cup of apple juice. So huge benefits. Also studies looking at dementia and a diet high in plants like these foods. The studies show promising benefits about cognition, function, and that kind of thing. So this is a powerhouse side dish. In fact, if you made this for your family for a holiday, you're actually taking care of your family and
you're doing them a favor.
Yes.
Cool. So my veggies are and I'm glad I thought of this. I don't want everything to cook too much. And again, because it's all going to get into the oven and bake a little bit. So for this, I'm just looking for my veggies to start to kind of release their moisture, get translucent, my onions, celery, and such. So as this is happening, I added my garlic already, and I added a pinch of salt and pepper. That's it in terms of seasoning. And then what I'm going to do, probably about now, I am going to add my apple in. And again, all I want to do is get it kind of like softened up a little bit, and then it's going to finish cooking in the oven. So how pretty is that? We've already got these nice colors. I actually really like, I didn't have these, but I actually really like Granny Smith for this kind of thing. I actually really like Granny Smith apples still. There's so many other like sexy apples out there, but especially for cooking and salads, I really think Granny Smith's might be my favorite still because of the tart. So gonna let this go for a couple more minutes, and then let me show you my other ingredients for this. I guess I can throw them into the rice as we wait for that to finish. So over here, I've got some pecans. These are just out of the bag in pieces, so I don't even need to chop them. So I'm putting some pecans in. Here's some cranberries as well, so we're sticking with the Thanksgiving theme. So I'm going to put those in. And guys, I noticed this, so I wanted to share with you. So I got this is from Trader Joe's, of course. I got the cranberries with no sugar added. And it's because I looked at the ones I usually get, and they have 27 grams of sugar for a serving, which is like almost like a can of Coke. So a lot of sugar. So I didn't even realize how much they were. So these are no sugar added. They're a little tart, but I kind of like that. And for it also, because when you get something that's not seasoned or sugar, you can add it later on yourself. So if you want that sweetness, I'm not a big sweet person, so I probably won't add a lot to it. But I just want to keep that, like, put that on your radar, that beware of the amount of sugar in your cranberries, because cranberries, that was an almost accident. Cranberries are naturally tart, and they add a lot of sugar to them to make them palatable to people. So last but not least, I have some sage. This is fresh sage. You can find this everywhere. I was lucky enough to pick it out of the garden. So I have about 10 leaves or so. And I'm just going to cut this up. I left it whole so you can kind of see it. You could use dried sage, but as we've discussed many, many times, with herbs, fresh is always better. But if you use dry, use a smaller amount because it's more concentrated. And sage is one of the ones that actually the dry, I think, is pretty good. It's not too far from the fresh versus like cilantro or parsley. Don't ever use dry parsley or cilantro. It's literally like nothing. So, so I've got my sage. I'm gonna add that in here, and my cranberries and pecans are going in. You see, we've already starting to get some nice color in there. And then
beautiful. I'm glad you're adding some nuts to that too. That just makes it.
Yeah, just want to make it kind of fun. So we got that in there. And then these veggies, let's go back and check on these. They're getting close. So I would say maybe another like minute or so, because my apples are still a little bit hard, but you don't need much time. You really, really don't. I don't want everything to like be too cooked. I want everything to have a little bit of bite to it when the stuffing is done. But one thing I'm going to do, which I think is a good trick, is I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable stock. So I'm going to make this a little bit wet. And the reason for that is this is going to go in the oven and it's going to bake. And yes, some of these veggies and the apples will release a little bit of their juice, but not a lot because I've already cooked them out. And rice soaks up a lot of flavor. And if you look at most stuffing recipes, especially with bread, they'll tell you to use quite a bit of stock. So I'm just using pre-made vegetable stock, low sodium. I always recommend get the low sodium. You can always add your own salt to it. Just like what I was saying with the sugar. I like having control of the seasoning myself instead of having the product season or, sweeten my food for me. So I'm just going to add some vegetable stock to this. And I like that because if this is a little bit wet going into the rice is just going to soak everything up and taste really, really good. So I'm going to add probably close to, I don't know, probably about 3/4 of a cup. And that also helps me kind of deglaze this pan. And this dish is, starting to wrap up. So I'm going to let that go for a couple minutes, and we're going to be close to plating that into the dish and sticking it in the oven. Shelley, any thoughts on this so far?
I have something to say about cranberries.
Please.
So cranberries background, little native to North America, grown on around 60,000 acres of farmland across the US, Chile, Canada, used by Native Americans as a treatment for, you guessed it, bladder and kidney disease. and used by early settlers from England to treat poor appetite, stomach issues, blood disorders, of course, scurvy. But I want to talk about UTIs. So cranberries are high in antioxidants, specifically proanthocyanidins, which help prevent certain kinds of bacteria from sticking to your urinary tract walls. It's been used for a very long time as preventative for UTIs, especially for women. Current research found that capsules are more concentrated. Capsules form of cranberries more effective with this than the juice, which is often also really high in sugar. It takes a high concentration of cranberry extract to prevent the bacterial adhesion in the urinary tract. So most juices available out there have too much sugar and they don't have enough of this beneficial antioxidant to help with that. Recent study found that cranberries alone didn't seem to be effective, but when combined with extracts of caprylitic acid from coconut oil and organic oregano essential oil extract, so some weird ones that you can't really get at the grocery store, seem to eliminate most of common bacteria found in UTIs. And I'm thinking they're probably going to have these extracts in capsule form with the cranberry extract, but research is really ongoing right now. So basically what I'm trying to say is cranberries are great, but you need a lot of this particular proanthocyanidin to do what you think that they're doing for your UTIs. Basically just eat the cranberries and enjoy them, but don't drink a lot of juice thinking that's going to help.
And also, Shelley, because of the sugar content too, right?
Yeah, so I have a lot of my patients with spinal cord injuries drinking a ton of cranberry juice, and it's just really not doing them any good at all. So yeah, so put cranberries into your wild rice stuffing and enjoy them for the fact that they're just cranberries and they have a lot of nutrition, as long as they don't have a lot of sugar added, like Arash said.
And what I just did while you were saying that was I decided I didn't like how little cranberries there were and I wanted more. So I added some there. So I mixed everything up. I want you all to see how gorgeous that is. It's all ready to go. And if you were doing a bread stuffing, you'd pretty much follow the same steps, nothing too different. You know, maybe you toast your bread, it depends, but really make your own stuffing. The stuff in the box, it's fine. It's definitely, there's a nostalgic element to it. Mostly I think it's just the salt because it's so stuffy. But I'm like, why did I like it so much as a kid? And then later I looked at the nutritional, I was like, oh, because it's got just like packed with salt.
Yeah.
But stuffing, you stale bread, you can use any bread, you can buy bread a week ahead and just let it, you know, whatever you don't eat, use that. Or you can make it with wild rice, you could make a quinoa stuffing, you could make really any whole grain you want. So yeah, so that's kind of all there is to it. I'm gonna put it, I think it's gonna fit. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna overpack it. I have a tendency to do that, but I'm gonna add just a splash of olive oil to this, and I'm gonna try to get this all into this pie tin before I cover it and bake it. So yeah, I think it'll be fine. A little bit tight in there, but.
And Arash, what other kind of grain could you use other than wild rice?
Yeah, good question. So I just mentioned you could use quinoa. You could use really almost any grain. You could use brown rice. Wild rice is just like a nice, little more, I guess, traditional, you could say. It is, you know, native to the Americas, to the indigenous people. So I like kind of keeping that tradition of it. But you could use most grains. What you want to avoid is overcooking the grain, whatever it is you do. You don't want to overcook it because then it'll just get kind of mushy and everything. So
like a long grain brown rice might be nice too, right?
Long brown rice would be really nice. Quinoa would be nice. Farro would be nice. Spelt, any of these other like whole grain.
Bulgur probably. What do you think?
Bulgur could work. You'd need a lot of it because bulgur doesn't expand like rices and stuff. So you'd need to use, but it's wonderful. I mean, I think I made bulgur last session, if not 2 ago, and it's a fantastic choice. I'm going to cover this with foil because I do want this to kind of, I don't want to lose the moisture in it. So I'm just going to give this some foil I have my oven preheated to 350. And it doesn't take long. This is something you could do all of this the day before, 2 days before, if you're thinking for Thanksgiving, and then just have it ready to go in your fridge like this. And then when it comes to Thanksgiving, you know, throw it in your oven, warm it up, check it to see if it needs a little more of anything. And that's it. I mean, that's the beauty of some of these dishes, is they're pretty easy to do ahead of time. So I'm gonna throw that in my oven. Stuffing is done.
Beautiful.
Hey, Shelley, we have a question. Someone is asking if, are you familiar with Cran-AZO gummies? I guess some kind of a cranberry
Probably
supplement.
that might be a brand. I'm not familiar with specific brands. My first thought with gummies is probably quite a bit of sugar in that. Gummies generally have a lot of sugar in them. And I don't really know, I don't know that brand. I don't know how much cranberry is in that, what else is in there. So I'm not really sure. I don't know how to answer that question without looking it up and studying the ingredients label.
Okay, should we move to the next item?
Let's go. What are we
Okay,
doing?
so what am I gonna do with this? I've talked about this lovely fermented ingredient called miso. If you've ever been to sushi and you've had miso soup, you've eaten miso. I think in one of the sessions I talked a lot about fermented foods, and miso is one of those things that I think we should all try to be integrating more into our cooking, because it's a fantastic ingredient. It's salty, it's got umami. It's really, really great. So I am going to take, this is what I was talking about, taking something traditional like mashed potatoes and taking it in a different direction. So instead of just boring old mashed potatoes, I'm making a mashed potato celery root mash of those. And I did about 50% of each. And if you've never had celery root or you've never cooked with it, don't be intimidated. It's like a big round thing. It looks almost like a giant potato. It looks really kind of weird on the outside. It's because it's a root. It was growing underground. It might have some like weird roots and stuff on it, but it's just this like big round thing. It's really easy to prep because you can't use like a peeler or something. The skin is too thick. So what I just do is I just cut off the ends and I just stand it up on my cutting board and cut the skin off around it. And then it's white and it looks like a big potato. And I love it because it's the root of the celery plant. So it's got this really nice celery flavor, but it's also got a really kind of like soft, kind of luscious texture. So all I did was I bought one celery root. You can find it most places. I got it at Safeway. If you live in the Bay Area, you probably have a Safeway near you. So this is not a hard ingredient to find, but it's also an ingredient that most people might just walk by a million times in the store and not even notice it's there. But it's really tasty. So all I did was I took some potatoes, just big russet potatoes, peeled them and boiled them along with celery root. I'll try to show you. It's kind of hard to even notice the difference now, but that's celery root. It kind of looks not that different from a potato. It looks exactly the same. So all I did was do like you're making normal mashed potatoes. I boiled them in water till they're soft. And I'm going to make these with a garlic miso butter. So taking it to a kind of a fun direction. So I've got my pot that I made that I cooked my potatoes and celery root with. These are all cooked and drained. If I had more time, I would have shown you how I made the celery root, but got that here. And then this is, as you guys know, I don't cook with a lot of butter and everything, but hey, it's Thanksgiving. It's good to be decadent sometimes, even for me. I am healthy for the most part, but hey, a little butter is okay here and there. So all I did was, this is a couple tablespoons of butter, and that's going to go into all of that. So I just warmed this up so it started to melt a little bit. And then I should probably grab a different spoon so I don't corrupt my miso. And then all I'm going to do is I've got some fresh garlic here. I don't mind the flavor of fresh garlic into that. If you're not a fan, you don't have to add it. Another thing you could do, which would be kind of a little more fancy even, is to roast a whole head of garlic, which is really easy to do. You just wrap it in foil and put it in the oven, and then squeeze the little roasted garlic. You could do that into this. I didn't have time to do that, so I'm using fresh garlic, and I love the flavor of garlic. I don't mind that it's kind of got like a strong garlic flavor. But here is my miso, and now this is where it gets interesting. Miso is very salty, but it also gives a lot of great flavor. So knowing that, I did not add very much salt to the water that I boiled the potatoes in. Ordinarily, I would add a good amount of salt to that water because you're really putting that flavor into the potatoes and celery root. So I kept the salt in there to a minimum because I knew I was going to add miso. So now I'm going to start with probably about a teaspoon of miso and just kind of work that into my butter.
And Arash, does the celery root cook at the same rate as the potatoes?
Pretty much. If you were like a professional chef, maybe depending on the size or the type of potato, maybe there'd be some slight discrepancy, but for all intents and purposes, yes, that's the beauty of it. You can just treat it like a potato. I threw them all in at the same time. And because you're making a mash, you know, it's not a huge deal if it's overcooked. You don't want them too mushy because then everything just kind of falls apart. But yeah, for the most part, that's how it goes. I'm going to add a little bit more miso to this. So actually, I'll just use this other spoon. Guys, and this just takes the flavor of the celery root and then with the miso and then with the garlic together. It just takes this dish to a whole other level. So if you've never done anything like this, please give it a try. So now I've got my, sorry?
It looks easy.
Very easy. And again, you could do anything in this. You could do, if you wanted to go spicy, if you wanted to put spices in it, make it like a curry mashed potato, anything you want. This is a really easy way to do it. So I've got my potatoes here. I've got my miso butter there. I'm going to add, in lieu, I don't like to add cream or anything. So I'm going to add some vegetable stock again for some moisture. Just to give it some moisture. And then I'm also going to add, I do have a little bit of just one like low fat milk. So I'm going to throw a little bit of that in there. Just because I have it for my coffee. So probably about a half cup of milk or so. Not a ton. Again, I'm not doing heavy cream. I'm not doing half and half. You can do that if that's your jam, no problem. But I'm not a fan of that too much. So let's go over here. And for the second time in 2 sessions, I'm going to use my hand blender, this trusty ingredient, because I don't have a potato masher, but this will work just fine. So I'm going to first give the potatoes and celery root a puree with this, and then slowly add my butter in as I go. So I kind of want to see where this goes. So this will get a little loud, so I'll just show you this is all I'm doing, and then maybe I'll back up the camera. So Shelley, if you have some stuff to add about anything I said. So
Arash, can you let us know what color miso you used?
Yeah, I used white miso. Very good question. I have both. I usually have white and red miso. What you want to know about miso is that the darker the color, the more intense the flavor. So for a lot of ways, if you want to try to use miso, use the white. If you're looking at like salad dressing or anything like that, use white miso. So I'm going to get this going. Shelley, if you anything to add?
So the miso part, I just want to remind everyone, this is fermented soybeans and grains also. And so things that are fermented generally very rich in probiotics. Probiotics are great for the gut. There's a lot of research going on with regards to probiotics. So definitely incorporate miso in there. Probiotics, as we know them, help support a healthy immune system, reduce inflammation, aid in digestion. Nutrient-wise, miso has multiple B vitamins, which help support the nervous system and brain function, rich in vitamin K, which is a fat-soluble vitamin that plays a very important role in blood clotting. Downside, yes, can be high in salt, but as you saw, Arash hardly used anything, and he's making a big pot of this. So that's fantastic, and it does impart a really delicious flavor to a lot of foods. So so that is miso, and then the soft and luscious celery root. I love that you describe celery root as soft and luscious. Makes me laugh. But anyways, this is a non-starchy vegetable, and you use both the shoots and roots, and as he said, a nice hint of celery in there. Do you ever roast celery root?
I have. Yeah, you can eat it raw too if you want.
Yeah, so that actually is a food that I haven't played around with too much, but you've inspired me to try eating a little bit more of it. So it's another excellent source of vitamin K, has a great amount of fiber and vitamin C, phosphorus, potassium. Basically all the good things that we know and love about plants are in celery root. And then of course, good old potatoes. So they're the starchy vegetable category. Definitely don't be afraid to use white potatoes here and there. Definitely want to try to have the skin on it where you can. Did you, you peeled the skin off of these potatoes for this, right?
I did, yeah. I peeled the potatoes. I just wanted to show kind of an even consistency. So check that out.
Beautiful.
How beautiful is that? And I'm telling you, the taste of this versus a normal mashed potato, this miso paste just takes it to another level. And honestly, it looked like a lot of garlic, but I could probably even use more. So I just like to finish this off with some chives just for green. I know this pot is like comically large for this amount of potatoes, but I'm just gonna do that for a little finish and the garnish, if you can see that. So there you go, mashed potatoes and celery root. Get into it, guys. This is a fun
Get
way.
into it. Soft and luscious.
Soft and luscious and very celery. So.
And Arash, where in the grocery store can people find miso?
Miso is in the refrigerated aisle. It's usually near like tofu or like sauerkraut. If your grocery store has like a section with like kimchi and sauerkraut and that kind of stuff, it's often there. If your grocery store has an Asian food aisle with a refrigerated section, most grocery stores have like the Asian food aisle of just, you know, non-refrigerated, but you do need to find it. It's sold refrigerated, and you do need to keep it in your fridge. And because it's fermented, it keeps forever. You could keep this in your fridge and it's pretty much never going to go bad. After a while, it gets a little dry or something from living in your fridge, but it's a really good ingredient. I really encourage everybody to buy some and just experiment with it. Substitute it as salt for whatever it is you're making. Put it in salad dressings and sauces, anything like this. So,
what kind of potato did you use there?
I use russet, just boring russet potatoes. I wanted to keep it really simple for everybody, so there's nothing too complicated. So I just used it was 4 big russet potatoes and 1 celery root, and it turned out to be about the same amount of each.
Nice. I'm going to play around with different, I wonder if you couldn't do some kind of sweet potato thing with that, or.
For sure. Yeah, there's so many ways to go. Again, we could do like 3 sessions on like fun Thanksgiving
yeah.
food. We gotta keep it narrow for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to move on to my last dish. We're going to go in a different direction. And the reason, like I said, I wanted to show this is I wanted to show you how to make something fun and kind of entertaining. If you want to make something a little healthy, contribute something that's a little bit different. I really like this dish. I made it recently. I hadn't made something like this in years. And I made it and I was like, man, this is so easy because I'm just going to use jarred tomato sauce and a couple of really simple ingredients. This is manicotti. This is like a giant pasta. I originally wanted the giant seashells, like the really big ones. I like those better, but I couldn't find them in like 3 different stores. I think they were just sold out. I think they had them usually. So I got manicotti. This is like just a big pasta. And what I did is I cooked these ahead of time, just like normal pasta in boiling water. You definitely want to undercook them a little bit. You want them to be a little bit al dente because this is going to cook more. So I've got my pasta here. I've got a filling of spinach and sauteed spinach and mushrooms that I'm using with a little bit of garlic and lemon as well. I made this ahead of time as well. And guys, I'm going to show you something. This is going to go into this. Do not tell me that you can't eat healthy, because I just put this entire thing of spinach into that. That's what that is. So if you think, you know, when you're eating a spinach tortilla that you're getting spinach, you're not. That's a marketing ploy. They're just turning your tortilla green. It's not giving you any nutritional benefit. This entire thing, 1 pound of spinach that, again, at Safeway, they always have it. It's $5. Pretty good deal for organic spinach. I just made it all into that, and that's what it turns into. So I'm going to, this is a really simple dish. I'm just going to put some tomato sauce on the bottom of this this oven-proof dish. So you want a good like bed of tomato sauce, and I'm using just jarred tomato sauce. I'm not doing anything complicated. Could you make your own tomato sauce? Of course. Yeah, this is just the kind I saw from Sprouts Market. Keep an eye on sugar in tomato sauces. A lot of jarred tomato sauces, they add a ton of sugar. So if you're buying tomato sauce, you know, and there's different ones with roasted garlic or basil or marinara, whatever, just get whatever you like. It doesn't really matter, just whatever your preference is. So I've got my bed of tomato sauce here, and watch how easy this is. This is all cold now. I cooled this all down. I wouldn't do this otherwise. But I just take my manicotti and I take my filling, and I just, probably took a little too much. I just stuff it in with my fingers, and I should probably do this over here so I don't make such a big mess. And you kind of stuff it into one end and then stuff it all the way in. And then you got room in here. And guys, you could make any filling you want. If you're a meat eater, you want to do like Italian sausage. I recently made this with like the Beyond brand plant-based sausage and spinach, and it was so good. But I wanted to kind of keep it really simple and plant-based for the sake of tonight. So that's all you do. You can make anything you want, any vegetable or filling you like, any flavors you want that are small enough to go into this pasta. That's all you do. I've got my mushrooms. I've got my spinach. I just sauteed them with a little bit of garlic and a little bit of lemon juice. And that's all I really did for this. And I'm just stuffing these pasta with my nice filling, making sure I'm getting some of everything in there, and making, as you can see, a little bit of a mess, but it's okay. It'll all get eaten together. And then I just kind of lay this down into my bed of sauce. So I'm going to keep doing that and pass it back to you, Shelley.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the spinach for a second. So spinach is super duper healthy, very low in calories. 3 cups of spinach is about 20 calories. No fat, actually has a little bit of protein, a decent amount of fiber, but over 300% of our vitamin K needs for the day. And I want to chat real quick about vitamin K. Vitamin K, I always remembered from school, K is clot. So vitamin K is used for blood clotting and it helps with, you know, like that kind of thing. But what I want to get into right now is he just put an entire box of spinach in there. Now you're not going to eat this entire dish of manicotti, right? I hope not. But it is Thanksgiving, so I don't judge. Anyways, that's a lot of vitamin K. And some of you may be on blood thinners like warfarin, things like that. Blood thinners they're prescribed for people who are at risk for developing harmful clots, blood clots. Sudden increases in foods that are high in vitamin K, like this, spinach, kale, mustard, collard, beet greens, Swiss chard, basically the dark leafy greens. Eating a lot of those can decrease the effectiveness of blood thinners, you know, make them less effective. Current recommendations, though, are to continue. If you eat a plate, like casserole dishes full of stuffed manicotti with $5 of spinach every single day, and that's normal for you, that's fine and dandy, because your medical team, they're going to check your prothrombin time. This is a test, the PT test, to measure the time it takes for your plasma to clot, and they're going to dose your blood thinner to whatever that is. So if you normally eat like an entire tray of manicotti with $5 of spinach every single day, they're going to dose your blood thinners to that, and that will keep you, keep it effective for you. If you only do this every so often, you want to kind of be mindful. You don't want to have days where you have a ton of vitamin K and days where you hardly have any. So keep it consistent. Current recommendations are to just eat how you normally would, and don't go crazy on a box of spinach every other day. You want to be consistent with your vitamin K. So that way your blood thinner works right. Other than that, I mean, this is a fancy dish, and it's something that you could definitely bring out. That's like a showstopper. And like Arash said, you could put anything in this manicotti that you want to. If you can find whole grain manicotti, do it. Because you lose a lot of the fiber. But honestly, if you're just trying to present something really nice for a family dinner, then don't sweat it. But if you eat a lot of manicotti, try to find something that's whole grain, so you get that fiber and the vitamins that you lose for white pasta. But I'm not going to be a killjoy here. Enjoy the manicotti for the holidays, okay?
Yeah, just so you know, a box of this, and this is a little bit less than a box, but so all these manicotti in the entire box was only 8 ounces. So if you think of a normal box of pasta, is usually 16 ounces or sometimes 12. So it looks like a lot, but it really isn't as much as you might think. So really do enjoy this. If you made an entire box of this, it's 8 ounces of pasta. If you divide that up, if you're eating this with 3 people, 4 people, you're talking about 2 to 3 ounces of pasta. That's not a lot of pasta. You'd eat more if you're having just a meal of like, spaghetti and tomato sauce or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, get into it and enjoy it. I'm almost done. I know this takes a little bit of time, but this is kind of what I mean by if you're wanting to make something a little bit decadent and fancy and fun, but you want to keep it healthy, make, and if you don't like spinach and mushrooms, make whatever filling you want. Use whatever filling you want. Like I said, I use plant-based sausage. If you're doing regular sausage or ground meat, that's fine too. What you want is you don't want a lot of moisture. So I had a little bit of liquid left over in this pan, you see, and that's kind of not my friend. It's making it a little bit harder for me. So all I'm doing is as I'm grabbing stuff out of here with my hand, I'm pressing it with my hand and getting some of the moisture out. And I'm realizing that mushrooms like this, they aren't the easiest to stuff. So next time I might try to find a more creative way to mix in the mushrooms so they're not.
And Arash, instead of using pasta, could people also use gluten-free crepes? Have you thought about that, or any thoughts on that?
I don't have any thoughts because I've never used anything like that, and I've never baked anything like that. So okay. I would recommend, if you're interested in something like that, maybe look for a gluten-free of the same pasta, like manicotti or giant shells or something, or look up some recipes and see if that would work. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You might just think it might fall apart or something. But I don't know. I don't want to speak to that without knowing for sure.
I've never worked with anything like that either. So follow the best bet is play with it, in the kitchen. Just try it out. That's how you learn. I mean, I love how Arash just generally throws stuff together. He's played with food for a long time, I'm sure, and figured out what works best for him. But I'm sure you've had a few mishaps, right? I mean, I know I have.
Yeah, and I think if you're afraid to fail, then and I wouldn't even call it failing, but if you're afraid to make mistakes, then that's tough. That's an unreasonable expectation to set for yourself. Mm-hmm. So the whole fun of cooking is trying different things. I just learned a bunch of things from this time. I'm like, oh yeah, this wasn't the easiest way to stuff it, but it's still okay. It looks, I know
beautiful,
it's like perfect, but it's really pretty. I am going to take a little more sauce, and I'm just going to cover I might as well just use the rest of this. I don't really care. So I do want to, but you don't have to. The point is though, you do want the sauce to kind of somewhat submerge the pasta because this is going to continue cooking in the oven. So this is, and that's why I'm not so worried that stuff spilled in here, like some of the mushrooms and stuff, because you're going to eat all that anyway. And then last but not least, yes, if you wanted to be really decadent, you could, cover it with, some other kind of cheese, but I really don't think it needs a lot. I'm just going to do a little bit of fresh Parmesan, freshly grated, like I like. And as you guys have heard me say many times, if you've watched before, Parmesan is one of the few things that I refuse to give up in my search of being more plant-based. There's just nothing that substitutes for it. And because it's one of the healthier ways of eating cheese, I'm okay with it for now. So that's it. I just used a tiny bit of that. And how beautiful is that? That's covered with foil, go in the same oven. Usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Most everything in here is already cooked. So you're just kind of bringing everything together. But I'm going to cover that, put it in the oven, check on my stuffing, and then maybe release my camera person while I do that because she has some things to attend to. So let's turn me around. And we can do some questions and stuff. I'm good to stay on for a bit.
Right. And so one question is, what type of mushrooms did you end up using?
I just used boring old brown cremini mushrooms, the kind you can get in any store.
Okay.
You can use the white too, no problem.
Right. And is the oven set at 350?
Yeah, I would do between 350 and 400. I wouldn't go above or below. What I do like to do is I'll usually put this in. Like I said, everything in here is already mostly cooked. So all I'm doing is kind of melting it, kind of heating everything up, making sure everything kind of cooks together for a bit. But that's the beauty of this dish. I'm going to cover it with foil, put it in there for probably about 20 minutes and then check on it. And then just before I think it's done, I'm going to take the foil off, crank up the heat for a couple minutes, maybe like literally like 2 or 3 minutes. So I kind of go full blast with the heat. And that's when you get that little bit of like browning finish on top.
Well, this has made me really hungry.
Yeah, again, if you guys could just smell what it smells like in here, it's just, it's rocking my own world here, so.
Well, I've been watching you obviously for the last 18 months. I think this is probably your best presentation ever. I mean,
wow.
in terms of just the amount of drool that I'm seeing off of Shelley.
Oh, no.
Shelley. Oh, you know what, guys? There's one more really cool that I forgot to do this. I have basil in my yard, but one last thing to do if you're gonna make this for Thanksgiving or really for anything is get a few basil leaves and put a few leaves right on top or like either just below your Parmesan or right on top. And it's so beautiful when it comes out. You've got like the red of the sauce, the cheese, the pasta, the green of the spinach. And then you've got these nice little leaves of basil on top. So it's just like a beautiful finish to the dish. I forgot to do it this time. My apologies, but yeah.
Here we go with color again. Remember,
here we go
guys,
with color.
You make your food as colorful as you can.
Okay, one last question. I think we have any tips on transferring hot pots and pans?
We've talked about this before. This is tricky because this is a very easy way to very badly hurt yourself. But I will share what I do, and I have my cutting board on the lap. I usually put a towel on the cutting board, grab the pot off the stove, put it on the towel on the board on my lap, and then wheel over to the sink if I'm dumping something out or something. And do it that way, very carefully, always away. If I'm dumping like hot water or something into the sink, always dump it away from you, not towards you, and you're in risk of splashing yourself with water. So,
and it wouldn't slip off the towel? You're not concerned about it?
That's why I use the towel so that the board doesn't burn with the hot pot, but also so that it doesn't slip off.
Got it.
I guess
if you were to dampen the towel, Arash, would that help too? Like if it was kind of a damp towel, like a terry cloth towel, would that give it more grip than dry?
Yeah, but it's not really as much grip. If you're using like a good towel. It should have plenty of grip. It's more, I don't want to burn my cutting board. So, but yeah, a damp towel could work too. Yep.
Okay.
My daughter is very intrigued and
Your
Well,
chef to
there's
be.
mushrooms there, and she loves mushrooms, right?
Hi.
Hi, Ed.
Hi. Oh, she's so sweet.
There's our aspiring chef. Okay. Arash, do you have anything more to add? Shelley?
No, I know what I'm doing next week.
Very
Yeah,
I'll
good.
look forward to those recipes. I know at least one I'm going to make.
Yeah, I will. Maybe I'll consult Franklin. I don't know if I can, if you get an email list of each group or what, but I'll just coordinate with you, and I will type up some recipes and send them out. And if you want me to make them more fancy or something, then we'll figure that out for the future. But I've heard the feedback. I will include recipes this time.
Very good. Thank you, Arash.
But
And,
don't be afraid to play with food. And I am going to make some soft and luscious celery root for Thanksgiving.
Soft and luscious and salty umami goodness. That's what it is.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Thank you so much. So everyone, this is our last presentation for the year. Actually, Arash, Shelley, and I are going to get together next month. We're going to be planning out our 2022 sort of strategy and outline of what kind of topics we want to address. So stay tuned on that front. And as I mentioned, these presentations are made possible thanks to our generous donors. And so we're grateful to them. And as you have probably been noticing, we have been recording tonight's presentation, so you all will receive it in your inboxes tomorrow morning. And as Arash has a chance to put together the recipes, if with your permission, I'll send you a separate email on that. But I just want to get the video out to you as soon as possible. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, Arash. Thank you, Shelley, for making yourselves available yet again. It's been a wonderful year of these amazing collaborations between the two of you that really benefits our community. Thanks for the time that you put into the quality of the material and content that you present. Is just unreal. So thank you. And thanks for everyone who tuned in tonight. Wishing you all a wonderful Thanksgiving, and hopefully you could take some of what Arash made for you tonight into consideration for your table. So enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you in 2022.
Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everyone.
Okay.
See you
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.